As a family of 5, we have major grocery bills. My husband works in the technology sector, while I focus on taking care of our 3 children, aged 10, 7, and 3. I attempt to go grocery shopping twice a week, mostly at the adjacent King Cullen and Target supermarkets. Typically, I would have to bring my 3-year-old daughter, Haley, along when I went shopping. However, this time was different. It was late, and my husband happened to be home from work, affording me the uncommon luxury of going alone. As I arrived at the King Cullen store, I noticed its peaceful environment, with only a few people there due to the nearing closing time. In the midst of swiftly completing my shopping, a man tapped my shoulder, startling me. He was of similar height, had a tan complexion, and wore a baseball cap, a black t-shirt, a red hoodie, and jeans. Apologizing for the interruption, he asked about the location of a specific bag of chips that I had in my cart. I kindly directed him to the aisle where I found them. After thanking him for his compliment and enduring his unpleasant breath, I tried to politely end the conversation and continue my shopping. However, he continued to ramble about his love for the chips and irrelevant details. Despite my hints, he didn't catch on and persisted. Then, in an awkward moment, he commented on my appearance, calling me beautiful. I thanked him and quickly excused myself, emphasizing the urgency of finishing my shopping before the store closed. I politely asked for some peace, but he followed me persistently. Despite my efforts to avoid him, he kept appearing in the aisles, casting lingering gazes in my direction. Feeling uncomfortable, I hurried through my shopping. However, at the checkout counter, there he was again, a red hoodie guy, standing silently right behind me. After finishing my shopping, I noticed the red hoodie guy watching me as I loaded my groceries into my car. He climbed into a worn-out, 30-year-old Honda that seemed to be in poor condition. Strangely, he didn't start the car, but simply sat inside. Once I finished loading my car, I got in, started the engine, and began driving out of the parking lot. I glanced at my rearview mirror a few times and didn't see any headlights following me, so I felt secure driving home. As I arrived home and looked down the street, I noticed a car approaching without its headlights on. It stopped a few houses away, and to my alarm, it was the same Honda from the parking lot. I felt uneasy and quickly called for my husband. He rushed downstairs, and I informed him about the suspicious follower. He went outside, but the car had already disappeared. Late at night over the weekend, we were startled by noises from the side yard. I woke up my husband, and he cautiously opened the window to investigate. Below, he saw someone attempting to open the side gates to our backyard. Upon realizing he had been spotted, the intruder quickly fled. My husband grabbed a baseball bat and went outside. Upon his return, he confirmed that it was the same individual in the red hoodie driving the shabby Honda, as I described earlier. We called the police, and an officer responded promptly. I provided them with an in-depth account of the man and his car. Fortunately, he never returned to our house, as my husband ran after him with a bat, giving a strong message. Nevertheless, I can't shake off the dread of knowing that such a predator is aware of our address. The underlying anxiety remains, knowing that someone like that knows where we reside. During college, I worked at a 24-hour Waldbaum store where some employees had to endure the dreaded overnight shift. Despite being a 20-year-old student, I mistakenly thought I would be exempt from it. However, when my boss discovered my school schedule and noticed my free Mondays and Wednesdays, she assigned me to the overnight shift from time to time. Reluctantly, I accepted an unplanned Tuesday night shift from midnight to 8 a.m. to conserve electricity. Half the lights in the store were turned off during this hour. Surprisingly, there were customers despite the late hour and reduced lighting. Late at night, the store was unusually quiet, with few customers remaining. As time passed, I began to question if any other employees were present. It seemed unlikely that they would leave a 20-year-old alone to run the entire business. The bald manager, dressed in khaki pants, carried a key ring and a small bag. Thinking it was my first day, he asked me about it. I clarified that it was my first night shift. Without introducing himself, he shook my hand and asked me to organize the pallets in the back warehouse while he watched the front. Despite my uncertainty, I agreed to figure it out. In the store, I saw the bald man securing the entrance door. Inside the warehouse, I met Rob, the only manager on duty. I mentioned the other individual I saw at the front, assuming he was another manager. Rob appeared confused and asked me to point him out, clarifying that he was the only manager present. In the dark store, I left the warehouse in search of the manager, Rob. Sitting on a box, I prepared to contact my friends when a door opened on the other side of the warehouse. I stayed quiet, listening to faint footsteps and the voice of the bald man calling out for me, realizing it wasn't Rob. In a rush, I quickly left the warehouse and searched for Rob, the manager. Unable to find him, I headed towards the exit, but it was locked. As I tried to open it, I heard footsteps approaching from behind. Startled, I turned around and was relieved to see Rob, the store manager, standing there. Rob quickly unlocked the door and urged me to follow him outside. As soon as we exited the store, he called the police, suspecting an armed individual was inside for a robbery. I stayed in my car and watched as 4 police cars arrived. Unable to see what happened, I eventually left, feeling uneasy. Despite the bald man's suspicious actions and the potential danger they posed, I didn't quit my job right away. After reviewing the security footage with my supervisor, it became evident that he had intentionally tampered with the lights and surveyed the store, indicating a possible robbery plan. Though shaken, I chose to continue working, but with increased vigilance and awareness of the potential risks involved. The cameras captured the man leaving through the emergency exit in the warehouse long before the arrival of the police. Ultimately, I never worked another overnight shift after discussing my concerns with my boss, and I remained at the job for a few more months. Unfortunately, I am unsure whether the identity of that man was ever determined. I used to work nights restocking shelves at Great American, a big supermarket in a rural town. My shift started after closing until 3 a.m. one night. I was supposed to work with Terry. When I arrived and began my duties, I realized Terry was nowhere to be found. I checked the back section, where Terry usually was, but he hadn't arrived yet. I propped the back door open and continued working, expecting Terry to come in. After an hour passed with no sign of him, I went to investigate. To my surprise, Terry was nowhere to be found, but I noticed the back door, which I left open, was now closed. I assumed Terry must have arrived and entered the store without me realizing it. As I approached the back door, I saw the door stopper on the outside, which was unusual. I called out Terry's name, but there was no response. I called him on the phone, and he answered, sounding like he was still in bed. He informed me that he was sick and wouldn't be coming to work that night. The door stopper incident unsettled me, but Terry brushed it off, claiming it might have come undone on its own. I quickly checked for others in the store, but found no one. Despite my lingering unease, I continued restocking the bread. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the store, signaling the presence of someone else. I stood up and headed towards the middle aisle, scanning the store. To my horror, I saw a man dressed in black strolling past the middle aisle, his eyes fixed on me. I reasoned that the person might be a replacement for Terry, a substitution that my boss neglected to inform me about. Feeling the sense of urgency, I quickened my pace and called out, "Excuse me," while swiftly passing by each aisle to my left. As I expected, I found the person waiting at the end of one of the aisles, facing me directly. He vanished upon seeing me, moving in the opposite direction. I hurriedly called out and pursued him, reaching the front of the store. He gestured for me to come close, his unsettling expression sending shivers down my spine. When I asked who he was, he promptly disappeared behind the shelf, leaving me shaken. Overwhelmed and realizing my compensation wasn't worth these unsettling encounters, I sought refuge in my car. I called my boss to report the presence of an unidentified person in the store. Following their instructions, I refrained from confronting the individual and dialed 911 for help. Soon, a police car arrived, and I approached the officer, detailing the situation and requesting their assistance inside the store. Together, we carefully searched the premises, hoping to locate the man. Eventually, we spotted him once more, standing in one of the aisles, his demeanor eerily reminiscent of a game. When the police officer sternly instructed him to come forward, surprisingly, he complied. The man was promptly handcuffed, and his behavior struck me as incredibly peculiar. He maintained a constant smile and incessantly licked his lips. Deep, dark bags hung heavily under his eyes. The only words he uttered were in response to the officer's questions, stating that he was simply searching for a snack. The way he fixed his gaze on me, accompanied by that menacing, threatening smile, sent chills down my spine. As the police officer led him back outside towards their patrol car, that haunting image remained etched in my memory. Despite the unsettling encounter, I gathered my composure and resumed my work. Needless to say, I made it a point to never leave any of the doors open again, taking extra precautions for my safety and the security of the store. Stay connected and prepare to be engulfed in a world of macabre suspense, sinister mysteries, and heart-pounding terror. Don't miss the opportunity to delve deeper into the realm of darkness. Subscribe now and embark on a never-ending journey through a collection of spine-tingling horror stories that will haunt your nightmares.